Hello and welcome to the Hughes at 10. And remarkably, it is actually 10. And I'm online, yay. And I'm hoping that you can hear me. So I'm just going to wait until someone who's there. Hi, Mike. Hi, David. Hi, Attila. If someone can let me know if they can hear me okay, and then my microphone's working because I'm actually wearing a clip mic tonight. Can anyone hear me? Am I coming through? You're not going to get any show until I know that you can hear me. I'm going to get a message now saying, you're silent, Graham. Can't hear you. Turn mute off. Yes! Thank you, Super Gikes. Okay. I'll cut this from the catch-up show. This was just a secret little bonus Easter egg just for you guys who are here early. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the Hughes at 10. And today I've got a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about today. Obviously, the ongoing trauma that is Trump not giving up the election, even though he's clearly lost. And I think we just had Mike Pompeo saying that they're preparing for a second Trump term, and you're like, what? It's like your team's been relegated, and they're like, yeah, we're getting ready to win the league, and you're like, no, you've been relegated. You're going down. Oh my God. And then obviously we've got a big issue at the moment. Well, it's been ongoing for a while, but to do with freedom of movement. And I really want to get into the nuts and bones of that because it drives me mad. The lack of, let's say, historic geopolitical knowledge in the mainstream. And by that, I mean, the way that we're not particularly well educated when it comes to Europe, our history with Europe, the European Union, and the way Europe is very different from the rest of the world. And I have to admit, even someone who has done an A-level and a degree in history and politics, I knew absolutely bugger all about the workings of the EU until we left the EU. Well, we voted to leave the EU, and I became a Remain campaigner. And I was like, right, I'm going to have to look under the bonnet and check out the nuts and bolts of this. Now, in my defense, there was a time 10 years ago, to be precise, when I just didn't give two monkeys about politics, really. If there was a particular issue that was upsetting me, I would maybe sign a petition or, write a Facebook post or whatever. But it would never cross my mind, particularly to go on a rally or a march. I went on the it was the G20 summit, I think, in 2005 up in Edinburgh. I went up for that and marched for the Drop the Debt Jubilee 2000 campaign, which was worthwhile, and it achieved its goals. Well, a large portion of it. Yeah, the fact that I knew bugger all about the EU, having done a degree in history and politics, is pretty bad. And if I knew bugger all, then people who didn't do any study at school on these things, all the information they've got is the stuff that they hear down the pub and read in the Daily Mail. Not good sources. But I'm going to put a little pin in that because I just want to talk tonight about this, about vaccinations. That's the headline, vaccinations. Because obviously we've got this new COVID vaccination developed by Pfizer, and this German couple who just completely stopped their lives to work on this amazing new vaccine. It works slightly differently to normal traditional vaccines, but it's shown to be 90% effective, and so far no side effects, which sounds really, really good. And it might be a way out of this whole this ongoing nightmare that we call lockdown. These idiots in charge, you don't know what they're doing. It's kind of embarrassing. So I want to talk about vaccines because this is a subject close to my heart, and I get rationally angry. I get a rational sense of outrage when people are, let's just call them anti-vaxxers, when people are saying that vaccines are nonsense and they don't work. Okay, let's start at the beginning then. There used to be a thing called smallpox. Do you remember that? Probably not. If you're my age or anyone younger, I mean, it just doesn't exist anymore, except for maybe a couple of samples in a lab somewhere. But smallpox used to ravage the world. One of the reasons why the native people of Australia, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand, even the New World, so all of the Caribs, the Incas, the Aztecs, one of the things that the Spanish or the British or the Dutch or whoever it was brought with them, along with guns, was germs, was these germs, this smallpox that the indigenous population had no protection against. It was a new virus to them. And whereas in Europe, smallpox was really, really bad, it was even worse in the New World, places like Peru and what's now Ecuador and what's now Brazil. And people died. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people died of this bloody, horrible disease. And we managed to vaccinate it out of existence. Polio, wild polio. When I traveled in Africa, I in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and in Nigeria, I saw children who had polio, older children, probably about 12, 13 years old, with polio, or had suffered from polio. They couldn't walk. Some of them couldn't walk at all. Were just kind of on the floor and moving around on their hands. And to see something like that in this day and age for a disease that can be vaccinated against just turned my stomach over. And one of the reasons why wild polio hadn't been eradicated before last year was because there was these rumors going around that the vaccinations had AIDS in them. Like, so these malicious rumors swell around, and obviously you don't want to give your baby an injection that might kill your baby. And a lot of unscrupulous people made a lot of money out of selling this bullshit. I mean, the one that sticks in my mind as well as my craw is a guy called Matthias Rath. And anyone who's read Ben Goldacre's Bad Science book might be familiar with this guy, but not necessarily to do with vaccines, but to do with medicine in general. He went to South Africa in the 90s and he started selling vitamins. He was a vitamin entrepreneur. And he told people who were suffering from HIV, right? They were HIV positive, they were suffering from AIDS, not to take their antiretroviral drugs. Don't take them, the things that work and will keep you alive. We want you to take his vitamins, specifically his vitamins. And as a result of that, thousands of South Africans died, and many more across the continent. They have a thing going all the way up from South Africa to Nigeria called the AIDS Highway, because a lot of the lorry drivers will go up and down that highway and they'll stop off and have sex with prostitutes, whoever. And AIDS was spread around the continent quite efficiently. It got so bad that by 2009, over a third of the adult population of the entire nation of Lesotho, the little country that's completely surrounded by South Africa, it's up in the mountains, over 33% of the population were HIV positive. The Minister for Health, under, I think it was Tambo Mbeki, she died of an AIDS-related disease. And she had gone on record telling people to just eat green leafy vegetables rather than take their antiretrovirals. There's money to be made in bullshit, and there's also death and carnage to be caused there. And so I see that. I look at polio being eradicated. I look at smallpox being eradicated. And then I come to measles. Now I've got a personal connection here, because I don't know if everyone watching this knows, but my partner Catherine is profoundly deaf. If she takes her expensive hearing aids out, she can't hear anything at all. And she's deaf because as a child she had measles. She couldn't be vaccinated, as some people can't, because they might be allergic to some of the ingredients, and they rely on herd immunity, which only works if you've got a vaccine, by the way. and she's been deaf ever since, and it's something that if you met her, you wouldn't necessarily know, because she doesn't speak like she was born deaf. Obviously, she learned to make the consonant sounds, some of the sounds that people who are born deaf find hard to recreate because they've never heard it. But she relies heavily on lip reading, and it's exhausting because she's kind of got to look at your lips and guess what you're saying all the time, and just try and make an educated guess. Anyway, I'm back. Can someone let me know what I was rabbiting on about when you when I got kicked off there? Cheers, Jobai. Cheers, Elizabeth. Cheers, Stanley. What bit had I got up to? Does anyone remember before it? Jobai's like, oh, shut up now. I do need to switch to OBS. Yes, I do. You're absolutely right, Thomas. It's kind of a bit of rubbish. I was saying how difficult lip reading is. Okay, yeah. So I was just saying that I couldn't imagine how difficult it is to lip read, and then I was forcing everybody watching this to lip read, maybe just to give you an idea of just how difficult it is to understand what people are saying when you can't actually hear them. So there you go. That was a real world example. I was actually talking about going to the cinema. I was waxing lyrical about how I love going to the cinema, and how I used to go every week. And I think it was Solo, Han Solo story, and the one that really stuck out for me was the Spider-Man 2, so Far From Home, which came out last year. When that came out, I think it was Far From Home, or it might have been Homecoming. It was one of the two. Catherine and I wanted to go and see it the weekend it came out, obviously, and there were no screenings with subtitles in Britain. There's a website called mylocalcinema.com, and it lists all of the subtitle showings, and there wasn't a single one in the whole of the country for that weekend. There was in the week, but actually the weekend that it came out. And all I could think was like, spoilers. You got to go on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, and you'd be scrolling through, and there's always spoilers. There's always they can't help but give spoilers out on these things. So I was like, I don't want to be, So that for me is just the tip of the iceberg of some of the problems that people face. And so that was my sort of experience there. That feeds into my experience of living with someone who is profoundly deaf, and she's profoundly deaf because not everyone got vaccinated. Not everyone who could get vaccinated against measles when we were kids got vaccinated. And then I think about my sister. Now, I lost my sister 9 years ago, and she died of cervical cancer. She's in her 40s, like I am now. And all I can think about that is the fact that we now have this incredible HPV vaccination, which is given to all kids. It used to be all girls, but I think they're giving it to boys now as well. And it's remarkably, it's absolutely incredible because the cervical cancer rates have gone off a cliff. And don't forget, there's not one type of cancer. Every type of cancer that you can get on every part of your body and anatomy, there's a few different types of that cancer. But the one that is caused by HPV has just disappeared amongst that age group because of that vaccination. And yet when it came out, there was a woman who was, the headmistress of some posh girls' school who didn't want to get the girls vaccinated because she felt that it would make them promiscuous. There's 11-year-old girls. And she was like, no, I want them to perhaps die of cancer later in life rather than have this injection and make them think that sex is okay to have now. It's like, oh my God, what goes through people's heads? So, Yeah, I read a really good article the other day in the on the Scientific American site, and I really recommend having a look at it because they'll put it a lot better than me, because this all feeds into each other. It is like anti-vaxxers, anti-science people, climate change deniers, Trump voters, Brexit voters, anti-maskers. They all seem to sort of be from the kind of same gene pool. I like to say, you know, if you draw a Venn diagram, you can pretty much draw a circle around them because there's so much overlap there. And there's this article in Scientific American. I think it's by a guy called Sean Connell, I think, and he talks about these like 6 principles of the denialist playbook, and this goes for not just global warming denialists, not just Brexit denialists, or, you know, I guess you can call them reality denialists, but also smoking, cancer. So in the 1950s, they finally got hard evidence that smoking caused lung cancer and heart disease and a lot of other associated problems. And the smoking companies, the tobacco companies, were like, oh no, people are going to stop smoking. We need to do something about this. So they paid scientists who were not medically trained in any way to go on the Johnny Carson's show with a cigarette and go, yeah, smoking's great. They might be a rocket scientist and go, yeah, I smoke all the time. Yeah, what's the problem? Or they might find a doctor who still smoked and said, oh, can we get a photo of you smoking? And the idea was to make people doubt the science, make people think, hang on, if that very clever rocket scientist is smoking, surely there's something in this. And I enjoy smoking, so, you know, do I really have to give it up? Do I really? And we're seeing that same pattern playing out generation after generation. And, you know, more recently, sort of in the 80s and 90s and up to now, it's been global warming. And they've used the same tactics, getting someone who's not actually professional scientist in that field, putting them on telly to go, oh yeah, there's nothing to be seen here. There's another tactic they use, which is really, really annoying. You all went to school, right? What were the scientists like? What were the people who studied, you know, studied to a PhD in physics or chemistry or biology? What were they particularly garrulous? Were they vivacious? Did they swing from the chandeliers, or were they more likely to be kind of a little bit quiet and a little bit withdrawn? I'm not saying that like all scientists are like that, because obviously there's a few that's not, but generally speaking, if you went into a room and said, I need a person to do some public speaking in front of everyone in the school, it would be the politics students like myself. It would be the historians, the English students, the drama students who'd be like, yeah, I'll do that. Whereas the science-led people, generally speaking, I don't want to say it's not everybody, but generally speaking, a bit more subdued and a bit more quiet on the whole. Okay, that was my experience in school, and, you know, as an adult, that hasn't really changed. And they know this. And that's why whenever you see a climate change scientist on the television, and the BBC, because they're idiots and mistake impartiality for balance when they're not the same thing, decide to we'll get someone for balance who doesn't believe in climate change on. Like, the argument's 50-50. It's not. It's 99-1. That's the argument. 99 scientists for every one scientist who knows what they're talking about think it's happening, think it's our fault, think that it's human driven. And so you'll have this situation. You'll be watching this thing on TV in a studio where you've got 2 people, one of which is a quiet, reserved scientist who has not been taught how to debate, how to do public speaking, any of that stuff. They're just there to present the evidence. And they're being shouted over by some fucking moron who went to a posh school and learned how to shout at people, do a gish gallop where you just talk a load of bollocks too fast for someone to respond to you, talk over the scientist, disrespect the scientist, and chip away at the scientists' credibility through talking, through I can't even call it debate, by bullying them on television and going, oh, why aren't you as cool as me? Essentially. And this is something that, again, it's just like, I can't believe that this is still the case. And you think now that the TV networks, the radio, they'll get onto this, but no. Radio 4's Today program still has climate change denialists. It still gives them time to talk. They come on and say, talk about this stuff, and it's like, your job as a journalist is, it's not to ask one person if they think it's raining or ask another person if they think it's not raining. It's to put the hand out the window and see if it's raining. You report the news, not people's views, not people's opinions about the fucking news. If you want that, watch YouTube. Not the telly. So you've got this all kind of feeding into each other. And it goes for Brexit. It goes for Trump. It goes for the people who voted for Boris Johnson. Maybe some people just like to be lied to. I don't know. But there is a definite denialist playbook, denial of reality. And this could also be for cultists as well, and for like absolute religious loons who believe that humans lived at the same time as dinosaurs and all this nonsense, and that fossils were put there by God to mess with our minds, which Bill Hicks famously said, oh God, we've got a prankster God. Let's put all these bones in the ground to just mess with their heads. And an eminent evolutionary biologist was asked, what would make him change his mind about evolution? What would make him doubt evolution? And he just said a rabbit fossil in a Precambrian rock strata. That was it. Just one bone in the wrong place somewhere on the planet that would give him doubt. But we haven't found one in the millions of fossils that we've found on Earth. They've all been in the right place. They've all been in the right rock strata for when those mammals or lizards or reptiles, whatever, existed. So the six principal playbook stuff for the denialists, according to Scientific American, this great article, which I will link at the bottom here, I think. Doubt the science, which I just said, go on TV and sort of say, the science isn't all in. Find a scientist that disagrees with another scientist about a facet of the science, and then make it out like one of them doesn't agree with the science entirely. And you can get someone who is a scientist but not in the same field as somebody else. You get a chemist and you get them to talk about biology, or you get a biologist to get them to talk about physics. If people cared about physics enough to actually, go on TV and lie about it, yeah, great. And you can get this person on the telly and go, okay, we need to listen to this person. They're a scientist. And this is something that you see in the newspapers as well. Have you seen how many articles begin, scientists say? Or if it's a tabloid, boffins say. Well, what scientists? Where? You could just say scientists, like there's a huge homogenous group of people from all over the world who just all have the same group think. Scientists say? What? No. Researchers from the University of blah, blah, blah say. And there's this thing of like degrading science as well, and like in the public eye, by making it, when it's reported, especially in the newspapers, in the moron newspapers, reporting it like the people reading it are really, really thick. And although, okay, yeah, if it's the Sun, yeah, they are thick. But when it's reported on the BBC and they're kind of doing it, but really, really basic stuff in a way that they don't do in the financial pages, in the way they don't do with the horse race pages. I can't make head nor tail of what the horse race pages mean or the numbers after the horses. I don't have a guide in every edition of the newspaper in case, I don't know. The onus is on me to suss out what it means. If horse racing means a lot to me, I'll know what it means. But no, we're given this sort of science by press release, which has been dumbed down to such an extent that the actual science in it has been diluted incredibly. And it makes people doubt the science. It's all part of the same trick by bad actors, people wanting to make a bit of crust, people who just want to make a name for themselves, people who want to make a crust. David Icke has earned more by being a conspiracy theorist than he ever made being a bloody footballer. Why? Because people love it. Alex Jones in America, he's a multi-millionaire off the back of selling conspiracy theories, saying that children who were massacred in the Sandy Hook, 21 children were massacred in Sandy Hook. 21 children had their brains splattered all over the fucking walls, 6 and 7 years old. And this guy's saying, oh no, it was all fake. It was crisis actors. They were just trying to ban our guns. This guy almost drove one of the parents of those children to suicide. He got his little acolytes to call them up and say, you're lying about your child dying. Imagine that. Imagine losing your child. And then some wank shaft rings you up and goes, oh, it's not real. Didn't really happen. I saw it on the Alex Jones show. Meanwhile, Alex Jones is sitting there counting his fucking money because of all the money he gets from all his merchandise and YouTube and bullshit, because he gets a huge audience because he tells people kind of what they want to hear, which is bullshit. So the second thing they do is question scientists' motives and integrity. They do all the time. And it goes back to this thing of like, first of all, get a scientist on TV who's not very good at public speaking. Great, we can demolish him in a debate, or her in a debate. Ha ha ha, won't that be fun? And then you say, well, who are these scientists working for, eh? They're working for Big Pharma. It's fine to buy your Bayer aspirin or to use your Pfizer fucking Viagra. Yeah, you trust them then. But no, they're all bad actors. All these scientists are going out and you got to think about what their motives are. And all I can think to that is like, oh, fuck you, man. Like, do they really think that those doctors and nurses working for the NHS, working for health systems all around the world, want to give your child autism? Do you think that these incredible people who work for Medicine Sans Frontières in Congo, in Kinshasa, and they travel around the country, there's no decent roads, so they have to take these light planes to get out to these places like Goma, which notoriously violent, and they do it to give children vaccines. They go into Yemen, they go into Eritrea, they go into South Sudan, risking their lives so these children might live. And they're the baddies. They're the baddies in all this. No, I'm sorry. Those people are heroes. And to cast aspersions on their character and to imagine that they're trekking for days through a jungle to give an injection to an African kid to give him possibly mild learning difficulties. Come on. And sorry, I don't mean to demean autism. I know it's a serious thing, but I'm just saying that there are degrees of autism and it could just be a mild case. But the fact is, vaccines don't cause autism at the end of the day. But this questioning of their of scientists' motives is disgusting. They've got brains and they become fucking lawyers or politicians if they just wanted to make loads of money, go into business, or I don't know, have rich friends who give them cushy contracts from the government. Yeah, I mean, it winds me up. Obviously, this is one of the reasons I'm doing these Hughes at Ten, is just to get off my chest a lot of things that just sort of built up inside. I'm like, I can't believe this is still going on. And hopefully give some of you watching this, some armaments against this tidal wave of bullshit that is coming over us, not just in politics, but in society, in medicine, and particularly in global warming, because we need to do something about global warming this decade. And I'm going to keep coming back to this point as we go forward with these things and with whatever I do next. Number 3 on this list of 6 is magnify disagreements among scientists and cite gadflies as authorities. So again, this is something that I touched on, where you say there's one scientist who says this and another one says that, and they both agree with the basics. They're just disagreeing on a technicality a lot of the time. And this is blown out of all proportion. This is like, oh, not all scientists agree with global warming. Like, but pretty much nearly everyone does. No, not every single one though. Okay. I don't know what you want me to do about that. If I say not all old people voted for Brexit, I get a load of shit by people going, stop being so ageist, Graham. And I'm like, no, I said not all. And I know not, oh, forget it. But the idea that every single scientist in the world has to sing from exactly the same hymn sheet is just kind of a bit insane. But then you'll get a document which is signed by 10,000 scientists from around the world who are climate change scientists that are saying climate change is real. It is human made, and we need to stop it, or this is going to happen. And they go, oh no, they've just paid to sign that. And then they get a document like the Great Barrington Proposal or whatever the fuck it was called. And they're like, oh no, this is real. Look at this. You've got to read this. And anyone could sign that. It's got signatures from Mickey Mouse. It's got the signature of it's been signed by not Fred West, the other one, Harold Shipman. It's been signed by Howard Chip, and they're like, yeah, look at this. It's like a fake document, and it's so transparently fake, but I guess it tells them what they want to hear. So loads of misinformation out there, yeah. And the next thing they do is they exaggerate the potential harm, and this is something that I find really disturbing as well. So we go back to the Andrew Wakefield thing. This Andrew Wakefield creep was working for a pharmaceutical company, or he's working for an insurance company or something. He went to a children's party and took samples without the fucking parents' consent. I mean, he broke every single rule that you can possibly break as a research medicine person. I don't know what his official title was, but he's not a doctor anymore. He's been struck off because of what he did. But he managed to get this paper published in the Lancet in the late 90s, saying that there was something in this idea that people who, children can get autism from the MMR jab. And it caused loads of kids not to get the MMR jab. In 2000, the measles was functionally extinct in America, and we brought it back. And it was people like Andrew Wakefield and David Icke and all these absolute cock jockeys who brought it back because they wanted to make some money. That's it. They just wanted to make some money. They don't care about how many lives they ruin along the way. They just wanted to make some money. And measles is a deadly disease. And people go, oh, it's just the flu. It's just the flu. Flu kills 10,000 people in this country a year. And the vaccine, it only lasts for a year, and there's different strains of flu. Yes, we have different vaccines, and we try and vaccinate the most vulnerable people. We shouldn't need to vaccinate everyone. And now we've got COVID, and now we're really up to our necks in shit. And the only thing that is actually a rope to pull ourselves out of this, right? Not just something to keep us head above water, but to actually grab onto and pull us out is a vaccine. And yet, I reckon a third, maybe a quarter or a third of the population of this country will say, I'm not having that. I'm not having it. Because of all the bullshit that there's been thrown in their face over the last 3-4 decades. It's anti-science agenda, anti-reason, anti-intelligence. We're sick of experts. Bit thick, join us, feel good. I'm in awe when I meet someone who's smarter than me. I'm not saying I'm really smart, there's hardly anyone, but when someone has a particular interest in a field, and it could be anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be science. It could be mechanics. It could be literally taking a motorbike apart and putting it back together. I find it fascinating that they know how to do that. Someone who can play by ear. Oh my God, I would love to play by ear. I've got friends who can just hear a song on the radio and play it on the piano. I'm like, oh my God, are you a wizard? Seriously, are you a wizard? How do you do that? I can read music. I can look at the notes on the stave and go, that's that note on the piano there. But I can't do that. That is way beyond my station in life. And I'm in awe of it. I don't think, oh, you bastard. Oh, how dare you have those skills? I watch the footy going, oh, look at those people running around for 90 minutes. Energetically. I can't do that. I couldn't do that when I was 20. I definitely can't do it now. I'm 41. And I'm like, it's the same sort of motivation that people have when they get jealous of someone who's done done well for themselves. And I think that I get quite angry about people who have illegitimately done well for themselves because they were born with loads of money and they made a bit more money, or in the case of Trump, just lost a load of money, but managed to get a lot of power. But when it comes to people who have actually made something of themselves and actually good at it, I really enjoy it. And I don't like, if I had to watch a reality show, I'd much rather watch Bake Off, because the people on that, they're pretty good at what they do. I don't want to watch X Factor. I mean, you watch the sort of giggle factor at the beginning because it's really funny that these people don't know they can't sing. But I find it depressing after a while. It feels like bullying. And I can't believe that no one has told these people that they can't sing before they go make an absolute arse of themselves on national television. It brings me down. I'd rather watch experts who are really good at what they do and watch what they're doing. But that's me. I don't know. I guess other people are just programmed differently. But yeah, they see an expert, they see a scientist, they see someone with some amazing qualifications, and they think, you fucker, how dare you? I'm not listening to you. I'm listening to Derek down the pub. The fifth thing they do, after exaggerating the potential harm of any given thing, by the way, just to touch on that again briefly, the exaggerating the potential harm, that goes so well with climate change, because people go, oh, climate change. I mean, Trump's hilarious when he says, oh yeah, think of all the birds that are being killed by the windmills. And I'm just thinking of him like dressed as a fat shite Don Quixote on his donkey, Ross and Nancy like running towards these wind turbines, going fuck it with like, an assault rifle or whatever Americans use for tilting at things. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's your best shot. They kill birds. They don't, by the way. Do you know what kills birds? Towers, big glass towers. Do you know who keeps building big glass towers? Donald Trump. Do you know Donald Trump kills more birds every year than every single wind turbine in the world combined? Yeah, there you go. That's a stat for you. I just made it up, but it sounds about right, and we could do some research later, which I'm sure will back it up. But then, the idea that if we do something about climate change, it's going to be bad for the economy, and all I could do to that is go, Brexit, but Brexit. And I'm just like, I'm lost for words. You know how damaging Brexit's going to be? Yeah, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. So making sure that the world isn't an uninhabitable hellhole in 50 years' time isn't worth it. No. Jesus. So the fifth thing is the appeal to personal freedom, and we see this with cigarettes. And I find it remarkable that it wasn't until the early 2000s that cigarette smoking was finally banned in public places like in bars and things. When I was growing up, you could smoke upstairs on the bus, you could smoke at the bus stop, you could smoke in the pub, you could smoke pretty much anywhere, you smoke in the barbershop. And it was horrible. It was fucking horrible. And I think this new generation coming up has been so blessed by they haven't, because they've had to live through Trump and everything. But in one way, they've been blessed with not having to experience that, because as a lifelong non-smoker, or even if I guess some people are smokers who give up, it just smells so bad. And when I used to work at the student union in Manchester, I'd come home after a night of work in there, and my hair would stink of smoke. My clothes would smell of smoke. I couldn't wear the same work shirt 2 days in a row or 2 nights in a row, because if I did, I couldn't take the smell of it. So I'll roll in at 2 o'clock in the morning after working Club Tropicana, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'll just lie down on the couch on my bed, and I was too knackered. I couldn't have a shower. I couldn't be arsed. And I'll wake up in the morning for my lectures, and not that early, because I didn't do science at university. I did an arts degree, obviously. Suckers. But yeah, I'd fall asleep, and my pillow would smell of smoke the next morning from my hair, and I'd have to wash my pillowcase. I'd have to wash my hair. I'd have to wash my shirt, because other people smoked. But this idea that it was their freedom to do it, it was their, when you're smoking cigarettes, you're smoking American history and freedom. And then when it comes to climate change, it's my freedom. It's my freedom. You can't make me drive an electric car or use renewable energy. No, that's a violation of my freedom to dig up the sludge from all the millions of years of dead dinosaurs that are beneath our feet, and then burn it, and then let the gases go up into the atmosphere and potentially suffocate the earth or life on earth. And you're just like, oh, for fuck's sake. So now we've got the anti-maskers jumping on the same bandwagon. Personal freedom. I don't want the state telling me to wear a mask when I go shopping. And you're like, but okay, forget the state for a moment. How about some basic common decency? Because there are people who can't wear masks and they are very vulnerable. Okay? Because the chances of them catching COVID-19 is higher because they can't wear a mask. You're not wearing it for yourself, you're wearing it for other people. Now, technically speaking, if I go out with Catherine because she has to lip read, I don't have to wear a mask. I don't use that as an excuse not to wear a mask. I fucking wear a mask because I want to do everything in my power to help not spread the disease. I've had it. It's unlikely that I'll be able to spread it again unless I get it in 6 months' time. And it's not even, whether that's going to happen or not. We don't know. But it seems like such a minute thing to have to do in the situation of a global pandemic. And all I can think of is Jenner with the original vaccination, the smallpox vaccination that was based on cowpox, because he realized that the milking maids didn't seem to get smallpox like the rest of the population. And so what he did was he got a little bit of cowpox and he injected his son, his little son, with cowpox. It might have actually been smallpox or a small bit of smallpox. Oh my God, what are you doing, Jenny, you nutter? But, no one's asking you to make that kind of sacrifice. They're asking you to wear a mask. And when the vaccine comes out, they're asking you if you're old, please get the vaccine because it will reduce the chances of you dying. And if you're working age, eventually everyone should be vaccinated who can be vaccinated. And that will give us the thing that has been buzzing around in the heads of people since the beginning of this, which is herd immunity, which can't happen until we have a vaccine, because herd immunity means that loads and loads of people are immune to it, not by having had it, because it would decimate the population. We're talking about people not being able to pass it on, because in any given crowd, there's too many people between them that they can't get it across because all the people between them are immune, herd immunity. Right, finally, reject whatever would repudiate a key philosophy. So this is going back to religion, man. This is like creationism. We reject all evolution, which is crazy. We reject the Big Bang. The Catholic Church respects the Big Bang. They think God did it. I don't, but they think God did it. That's fine. They respect evolution. So they go, okay, well, things evolve, but that's the way God designed them. Okay, fine. You've come to some compromise there. That's okay. But then you get these mad evangelists in America. The tele-evangelists like a bit of money, don't they? And they're going, oh no, there's no evolution, and God made Earth. I've added up all the dates in the Bible, and it was 4004 BC. You've added up the dates in the Bible. Yeah, 4004 BC. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Why is there no plutonium? Why do we have to make it? It's only got a half-life of X amount of years, and there's none of it left because it's all degraded so much because the Earth's been here so long. Oh, forget it. Anyway, so there are 6 key principles at play in the denialist playbook. So if you head across to the Scientific American site, it's scientificamerican.com, and that article is there for you to have a look at. Please do. I hope that I've kept you on here. I'm really sorry about the sound issues. What I think it is the sound is coming through my phone, and I'm keeping my thumb on it so the phone doesn't turn itself off, because when the screen turns off, I think the mic turns off. So yeah, but it's okay now. I'm just going to make my screen a little bit bigger so I can, oh no, I'm making it smaller. Okay, that's not working. Oh no, there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a few of your messages. I really want to. I really wanted this to be a short one today, but John Major's speech, yes, Elizabeth. I think I'll try and get to that tomorrow. It's like, oh my God, there's so much to talk about each day. But yeah, John Major's speech. If you haven't seen it, please look it up. He is absolutely on point. And actually, just before I came on, I was talking to Catherine about John Major, who is a Tory that I have time for. There are some of them, Dominic Grieve. I've got time for this man. The Tories that are in charge at the moment, I don't think I have time for any of them. They are all self-serving nitwits. They are all crooked idiots, and it just they offend me. I find them all offensive. But yeah, I'm not going to go on about it. But John Major, don't forget, he was instrumental in the building of the Good Friday Agreement, because although it was signed in '98, I think, Tony Blair had only been in power for a year. He hadn't done all the background stuff with it. That was John Major's government doing it on the sly, opening up talks with the IRA. And I don't know if you remember, but I seem to remember when it came out that the British government was conducting a secret dialogue with the IRA to hopefully bring an end to the violence in Northern Ireland. They got a lot of stick for it. They got a lot of stick for it because people are like, well, you said you weren't going to negotiate with terrorists, and like, well, we're not officially. And the other thing that happened under John Major is, so he came into power in 1990. That was around the time that Thamo Mbeki came over, and he was talking to not PW both, FW de Klerk about the end of apartheid in South Africa, and that was a good bit of just statesmanship, let's call it, just trying to get these two sides together to build a new and better South Africa. And also, I know this was more the Americans doing, but the fact is, in 1995, it did look very, very close to us having peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And it was the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin that led to that all unfolding. And John Major had a bit of a hand in all of those things. I know he didn't, don't at me, don't say, but Graham, he's a Tory, he's a bastard. But it just goes to show the difference between what was a statesman or stateswoman back then and what one is now. The gulf of difference between John Major and Boris Johnson, both people from the same party, but so very different in their style, their approach, and just having, I don't know, a little bit of empathy, a little bit of nous, a little bit of a little bit of not being a sociopath, I think would be a good way of putting it. But there we go. We got Boris Johnson, and I can't even bear to hear him speak. He just annoys me too much. Okay, so I'm just going to go through some of the messages. I've got loads saying you can't hear me. God, I got so many messages tonight. Mike. Let's come together and buy him a laptop. I've got a laptop. Okay, so most of the things are saying I've got no sound, but we sorted that, didn't we? And I'll have to edit the video at the end to take out a big chunk of silence. Does your cinema have a loop system for helping hearing aids? It depends on your type of hearing aid. The type of hearing aid that Catherine uses is a Bluetooth hearing aid, so it doesn't work on the same system as a loop. And the way that people are deaf, I always assume that when you were deaf, it was just like turning the volume down on the TV, but it's not. It's turning the volume down on certain frequencies. So there might be some frequencies that you can hear fine, but they're intermingled with frequencies that you cannot hear at all. And it's sort of charted on an audiograph, I think it's called. And it's not as straightforward as just turning the sound up. And one of the big problems, obviously, with wearing amplifiers in your ears all the time is that it degrades your hearing. So wearing hearing aids is bad for your hearing. in the long term, because you've basically got this loud sounds going off in your ears. And one of the things that an American company is working on, and I know this because I had this idea and then I looked it up to see if someone else was working on it, but it's basically trying to get light. So sound waves come in, they get converted to light, which obviously is silent. That hits a membrane on the on your eardrum, and you learn to understand what the vibration of those sounds mean in terms of words and sounds and everything again. But yeah, it's still very much a prototype, but that would be great because that means that you're not actually deafening yourself with your hearing aids. Vera says she got the HPV vaccine as an adult. Good on you. I think it was really expensive. I think I looked into that at Boots and it was like 400 quid or something. It was ridiculous. I should say as well, I got all my vaccinations before I went on my journey to every country in the world. I got hepatitis A, B, C, I got typhoid, I got diphtheria, I got Japanese encephalitis, I got yellow fever, I got, rabies, everything. And my entire journey, 4 years, every country in the world, didn't get ill, did not get ill, didn't go to a hospital, didn't go to a doctor, didn't have a day off sick. I had a day off with a hangover, but that's not the same thing. And I don't believe that I'm just the luckiest person in the world. I was staying in some really unsanitary environments, especially traveling around Central Asia and Africa and Southeast Asia. I mean, I was staying at people's houses. I was, sleeping outside. And I don't believe that I'm just that lucky. I think what happened was I took the precautions that I needed to take. I took my anti-malarials and I made sure that I took all the precautions that were reasonable for me to take in order to not get ill. And hey presto, I didn't get ill. And I know obviously the plural of anecdote isn't data, but you get the idea. Too many idiots out there. Yeah, Neanderthals. Yeah. Best argument flat earth idiots have is the Bible. Is it? Is that where they get it from? I love the flat earth thing. It's just like, you got these round planets and you've got the moon that's round, you got the sun that's round, you got the earth that's just flat. Same with nuclear power plants. I don't know what you're referring to there, but yeah, nuclear power plants. I mean, I would have a nuclear reactor in my back garden if I, I'm not scared of them in that way of, oh my God, these things are really bad and terrible and awful. But I just don't think that they are particularly efficient anymore. The sort of the cost of building them and then operating them and then disposing of the waste afterwards, although we're getting better at recycling it, is an issue. But the times that there have been tragedies and disasters involving nuclear power plants, it's been the old Swiss cheese model of like loads of things going wrong all at the same time. Systemic failures, which caused Chernobyl, the 3 Mile Island incident, the meltdown, no one was killed, and then obviously Fukushima, which is the one where you're like, you could have designed the thing a bit better. I think why they had the generators, didn't they? And the generators weren't high enough, or they were too high up, or they just got swamped by the water. I can't remember what happened, but they had a bloody big earthquake and a huge tsunami, and they weren't prepared for it. In a country that has lots of earthquakes, to be fair, but never quite as big as that. I mean, that was a real tragedy. But yeah, there's a nuclear. There you go. Here's a little tidbit of information. There's a nuclear reactor in Congo, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I think it's on the outskirts of Kinshasa. I'm going to do some research into it and get back to you. But yeah, well, there used to be, and it was like a present, I think. But I think it was built by the French, but it would have been built by the Belgians, maybe the Belgians. But it was built with American money because the nuclear fuel that they used to destroy Hiroshima came from Congo. Whichever bomb it was that they, I'll forget it. One of them was uranium, and the other one was something else, wasn't it? Can't keep up with all this. Right, scientists, yes. Explaining complex scientific issues to the public is a major challenge. Yeah, Dimitri, you're absolutely right. There's only a few people who are particularly good at it. Obviously you got Bill Nye, the science guy, but you've got this thing now where like David Attenborough talks about the environment, and he is probably one of the best placed people, although perhaps he doesn't have the academic qualifications to be talking about climate change in the way that a climate change scientist can. He can look at what the world looked like, when he started doing his documentaries and what it looks like now, and that real lived experience, and say, shit, we need to do something about this. And yet people don't listen to him. He's David fucking Attenborough, and they're like, no, I'm not listening to him. And then they go, okay, what's the problem? He's too old. Oh, well, there's Greta Thunberg. Oh, I'm not listening to her. She's too young. Can't fucking win. Brian Cox is good. Brian Cox is a liar. Okay, Gaz. Gaz doesn't like Brian Cox. Probably because he's from Manchester. Don't know. And he was in Devine. Yeah, Brian Cox is a liar because he played the keyboard on Things Can Only Get Better, and things haven't got better, Brian. Bastard. Did he lie about the number of stars? You're having your own conversations here. There's a note there about Sandy Hook. Absolutely unbelievable that man, Alex Jones, is still allowed to make videos, still allowed to be on TV. He's still allowed to do anything. He should be in jail. He should be in jail. The endless lying. Yeah. Parents, neighbors smoking. When I visit, even a week later, it's horrendous. That's from Mike. Yeah, just right. Patrick saying my parents smoke. The ceilings were all yellow. I think there's a Coldplay song about that. John Major gave a speech. Yeah, we're talking about the Major speech. Fusion reactors, though. I didn't even get sick in Bangladesh. Well done, Gaz. I was horrible in Bangladesh. Like, Dakar is so polluted. And I still remember I went there and I washed my hair. Like, after a day walking around, I got down to the river or the shore or whatever, and there were all these boats, and they were like rusting hulks on an angle, and there were all like families living on these boats on an angle, and it was like living in a set from the 1960s Batman, where everything's like this. It's like on a Dutch tilt. Bloody hell. And I came back to where I was staying, and I remember I washed my hair, and I looked at my hands with like the lather, and the foam was brown. It was brown from the pollution, the dust and the dirt in the city. It was just, I was off the charts. Nice buses though. They have really good buses there. Good air conditioning. Right, 30 years, maybe nothing. What were we talking about? Nuclear power plants still. Listen, nuclear power plants, I think they had the day. At the end of the day, we have technology now, and I know that it's not quite there yet because we don't have that baseline sorted. There's no wind, and it's dark. You can't get any solar or wind power. But I would like that baseline to be tidal, and somewhere like Liverpool or Bristol, where they have some of the biggest tidal ranges in the world, are optimum places for setting up that kind of thing. The only problem is that you don't put anything in the water and the water just eats it. Like, everything just goes, right, we're having this. That's why the Titanic is barely there anymore. It's all been eaten away by not by fortune hunters, but by the sea. Well, are we still talking about nuclear waste? Well, we could do one maybe in a week's time or something. Once we've got everything else off the agenda, maybe we could do an episode on nuclear power, because I think that'd be quite an interesting thing if you guys and girls can talk to me about it, and we'll have a bit of discussion. Environmental issues with Dimitri. Yep, that's true. There are. There's no perfect solution, but I think that there is a way of having a good mix of ways of producing power that do not involve fossil fuels, which are obviously hastening the end of humanity. I mean, not just us, the entire ecosystem that humanity depends on to live. Okay, so oh my God, I've been going on for an hour and 6 minutes, but in my defense, there was a good 10 minutes there where you couldn't hear me. Catherine actually came down and told me no one could hear me because she's looking at the live chat for me. And I will try and keep a better eye on the live chat in future when the sound goes down or something, so I can see what you're saying. All right, so we're talking about wave power, eternal but never tried, but not harnessed. Is wave power eternal? Surely you have days where it's like it's quite flat on the ocean, a halcyon day. What takes the cake is the White House taking credit for its development, even though it was funded thanks to an early 400 million euro grant from the German government. Yeah, Mike's talking about the vaccine there against COVID. It's been developed by Pfizer and this small German company, which I think is just a married couple. I don't know. It seems a bit mad, but I think they're going to be the heroes of the world very soon. But the vaccine is very, very, very good news. It is the light at the end of this horrible COVID tunnel, the light at the end of, wow. Imagine if we're sitting here in a year's time and Joe Biden's the president and COVID's a distant memory and Boris Johnson's fallen out of a hot air balloon onto Nigel Farage. That'd be great. Anyway, right. Okay, I'm getting off now. I'm going to say goodnight. So I will see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock, hopefully on the dot. And I've got better sound now when it works. Yay, just got to keep my thumb on my phone. Oh, technology, eh? What I'll do is I'll turn off the automatic power off thing on my phone so it won't automatically power off. Okay, so see you later, Paul. See you, Steve. See you, Phil. See you, everybody. And yeah, like I say, 10 o'clock tomorrow, and I'll probably be talking about freedom of movement, which I was thinking of talking about today, but I never got quite around to it. So yeah, freedom of movement tomorrow, I think. But I'm trying not to give these things titles until afterwards because I changed my mind at the last minute. All right, great talking to you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.